There was one truth everyone knew. You do not fight wars in the sky. Wars are fought by men standing in mud, choking on cordite, advancing behind artillery, bleeding into shattered earth. You do not capture ground from clouds. You do not hold a hill from 10,000 feet. You do not conquer nations with canvas wings and wooden struts. For decades, every military power on Earth believes the airplane is a novelty, a fragile contraption, a curiosity, at best a pair of eyes in the sky, a reconnaissance platform, a flying notebook, something that observes real war but never becomes it. Generals trust artillery, infantry, cavalry, battleships. They do not trust engines that fail, wings that snap, machines that fall from the sky when a single wire breaks. The sky, they believe, is uncontrollable, infinite, too large to dominate, too unstable to weaponize, and above all, one mechanical problem seems impossible to solve. You cannot fire a machine gun straight ahead from a tractor aircraft without shooting your own propeller to pieces. Every experiment ends in shattered blades and dead pilots. So planes carry no forward-firing weapons. Observers bring pistols, carbines, sometimes bricks. Men in opposing aircraft wave at each other as they pass. They exchange gestures. They nod. They leave. Then they report what they saw. And thousands die because of it. Because artillery is adjusted. Because reserves are spotted. Because attacks are anticipated. Slowly, horrifyingly, commanders realize something. Whoever controls the sky controls information. Whoever controls information controls artillery. Whoever controls artillery controls the battlefield. The sky is not harmless. It is the highest ground on Earth. But no one knows how to seize it. Until 1915. Until synchronized machine guns appear. Until bullets pass safely between spinning blades. Until aircraft stop being eyes and become predators. But even then, no one understands what kind of men will inhabit this new realm. No one understands what kind of mind is required to hunt other humans in 3 dimensions. But in 1916, one young German cavalry officer climbs into a fragile aircraft and begins to define what air war will become. Manfred Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen is born in Breslau in 1892. Prussian nobility. Military tradition. From childhood, he is taught discipline, obedience, and precision. He rides horses before he learns algebra. He shoots before he studies literature. He enters the Prussian Cadet Corps as a boy. By the outbreak of war in 1914, he is a lieutenant in the cavalry. But cavalry is dying. Machine guns slaughter horsemen by the thousands. Charges become massacres. Romantic notions of war evaporate in barbed wire. Richthofen grows frustrated. He does not want to sit in trenches. He does not want to deliver messages on horseback. He wants action, movement, individual achievement. He transfers to the Air Service in 1915 as an observer, not a pilot, a gunner and spotter in 2-seat aircraft. He flies over the front lines. He watches men die below like insects crushed by artillery. He fires at enemy aircraft with flexible mounted machine guns. He discovers something about himself. He does not panic. He does not hesitate. He feels calm while being shot at. He begins studying aerial tactics obsessively. He watches how pilots maneuver, how they approach, how they escape. He meets Oswald Bolk, Germany's first great air tactician. Bolk teaches rules, principles that will become immortal. Attack from above, secure surprise, maintain visual contact, never turn away. Richthofen absorbs everything. He learns to fly. He earns his pilot's wings. By September 1916, he scores his first kill. Then another. Then another. Each victory brings confirmation. He is good at this. Not in a reckless way. Not with wild bravado. With cold calculation. He stalks. He positions. He attacks only when conditions favor him. Germany begins grouping fighters into specialized squadrons called Jagdstaffeln. Hunting squadrons. Their sole mission is to destroy enemy aircraft. No reconnaissance. No bombing. Pure air combat. Richthofen becomes commander of Jasta 11 in January 1917. He paints his Albatros fighter bright red. Not for vanity. Not for romance. For intimidation. He wants the enemy to know who hunts them. He wants them to fear the sky itself. The British and French are expanding their air forces rapidly. The Royal Flying Corps suffers catastrophic losses. April 1917 becomes known as Bloody April. The RFC loses 245 aircraft in 1 month. German losses, 66. Air superiority matters now. Entire offensives depend on it. If Germany controls the sky, British artillery is blind. If Britain controls the sky, German trenches become death traps. Richthofen understands what he is part of. Not a duel sport. Not individual heroics. A systematic killing machine. But the true test comes in July 1917, over the Ypres salient. The largest air battles the world has ever seen. Hundreds of aircraft. Continuous patrols. No safe sky. And on a single morning, Richthofen will enter a fight that will nearly end everything. Morning haze hangs over Flanders. The air smells of damp earth and burned oil. Richthofen climbs into his Albatros D.3. Engine, 170 horsepower. Twin Spandau machine guns. 500 rounds per gun. He adjusts his goggles. Checks fuel. Checks controls. His squadron numbers 12 aircraft today. Across the lines, British patrols operate in groups of 18 to 24. The odds are never even. The engine starts. A hard mechanical snarl. The aircraft vibrates. Fabric ripples. One by one, red and camouflaged fighters lift into the pale sky. Climb. 3,000 feet. 6,000. 10,000. The cold bites instantly. Your fingers stiffen inside gloves. Your breath fogs goggles. You scan constantly. Above. Below. Behind. After 20 minutes, shapes appear. Silver dots in sunlight. British SE-5A fighters. At least 20. Richthofen counts. 22. His squadron, 12. He does not turn away. He signals attack. The Germans climb slightly. They position with sun behind them. They dive. The sky erupts. Engines howl. Tracers streak. Aircraft cross at closing speeds over 200 miles per hour. Richthofen selects a target. A lone SE-5 pulling up. He dives. The range collapses. 300 meters. 200. 100. He fires. The Spandau's hammer. The SE-5's engine explodes in white smoke. The British pilot rolls inverted. Falls. 1. No time to watch. Another British fighter slides across his nose. Short burst. Bullets tear through wing root. The aircraft disintegrates midair. 2. Richthofen pulls up hard. G-forces crush his chest. Black dots creep at the edge of vision. He levels. A burst of bullets slams into his fuselage. Splinters fly past his face. A British fighter sits behind him. He rolls left. The British overshoots. Richthofen reverses. Fires. The British plane catches fire. 3. But the fight is turning chaotic. German aircraft scatter. British pairs work together. Richthofen sees one of his pilots spinning downward, trailing smoke. He dives toward him. A British fighter blocks him. They close head-on. Neither turns. At 50 meters, both fire. Richthofen feels a hammer strike his skull. White light explodes behind his eyes. His aircraft lurches. Blood floods his vision. He is wounded. A bullet has entered his head above the left eye. He is still conscious. Barely. The British fighter flashes past. Richthofen's hands remain on the controls. He tastes iron. He cannot see clearly. One eye blurs. The world tilts. He forces the nose down to maintain speed. His altitude drops. 8,000 feet. 7,000. He could break away. He should break away. But he sees British aircraft forming up again. He forces himself back into the fight. He spots a British fighter lining up on a German below. Richthofen dives. Fires a short burst. The British aircraft shudders. The pilot slumps forward. Blood runs into Richthofen's mouth. His head pounds with each heartbeat. The pain is massive. But the sky remains full of enemies. A British pilot dives on Richthofen. Tracers streak past his canopy. He yanks the stick. The aircraft groans. Wires vibrate violently. He loses 1,000 feet in seconds. Another British fighter appears on his right. He cannot track both. He picks one. Fires. Misses. The British pilot closes. 200 meters. 150. 100. Richthofen rolls inverted. Pulls through. The British overshoots. Richthofen fires point blank. The SE-5 breaks apart. His vision tunnels. The edges darken. He knows he is close to losing consciousness. He checks altitude. 3,000 feet. Below him, no man's land. Craters. Wire. Mud. He realizes something terrifying. If he blacks out, he dies. If he continues fighting, he probably dies. But he also sees British aircraft breaking away. The German squadron has inflicted heavy losses. The British formation loses cohesion. Richthofen decides to disengage. He turns east. His aircraft shudders. Control response feels sluggish. Blood soaks his scarf. The engine still runs. He holds 90 miles per hour. Anti-aircraft fire begins bursting around him. Black puffs. Shrapnel rattles against wings. He stays low. 500 feet. 300. Trees rush past. He crosses German trenches at treetop height. He lines up for an emergency landing. The ground rises. He flares. The Albatros slams into a field. The landing gear collapses. The nose digs in. The aircraft flips onto its back. Richthofen is thrown forward. Everything goes dark. Medics pull him from the wreck. He drifts in and out of consciousness. Surgeons remove bone fragments from his skull. He is told he should never fly again. The wound causes dizziness, headaches, nausea. But he refuses to accept that. After weeks of recovery, he returns to combat. He continues scoring victories. 40, 50, 60, 70. Each kill increases his fame. The Allies put a price on his head. British pilots are briefed with his red aircraft silhouette. If you see this plane, they are told, kill the pilot. On April 21, 1918, Richthofen pursues a Canadian Sopwith Camel at low altitude. He violates his own rules. He chases too long. He flies too low. Ground fire erupts. Machine gun bullets rip through his chest. His red triplane lands behind German lines. Dead at age 25. With 80 confirmed victories. The world's first true air war icon. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage, sacrifice, and genius deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. What they didn't know in 1914 was that air superiority would become the foundation of modern warfare. By 1918, every major offensive begins with aerial preparation. Fighter sweeps. Balloon busting. Reconnaissance suppression. Germany creates the first integrated fighter wing. Britain builds massive training pipelines. France develops specialized pursuit tactics. The United States copies European doctrine almost wholesale. The concept of the ace becomes a recruiting tool. But the real change is structural. Air forces become independent branches. Aircraft design accelerates exponentially. Speeds double within 4 years. Armament evolves from single guns to twin synchronized weapons. Bomb loads increase. Radio communication begins to appear. The sky becomes a permanent battlefield. Future wars will not ask whether air power matters. They will ask who controls it. The tactics written by men like Richthofen and Bolk form the DNA of modern fighter combat. Energy management. Altitude advantage. Mutual support. These principles remain unchanged more than a century later. Manfred von Richthofen is buried with full military honors. Even his enemies salute him. British pilots drop wreaths on his grave. Today his name remains synonymous with aerial combat. But beyond the myth stands a young man shaped by discipline, pressure, and an entirely new form of killing. He was 25 years old when he died. Most of his pilots were younger. Teenagers. Barely men. They climbed into fragile machines knowing that survival odds were measured in weeks. This story matters now because modern airmen inherit a sky conquered by others. Because every jet pilot, every drone operator, every combat controller stands on a foundation built from wood, wire, and blood. And because memory is the only monument that never erodes. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Manfred von Richthofen and the men of Jageschwader 1 do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.